I mentioned the bridge about being an entrepreneur, but first, Cornelius, you have a dual hat that you wear. You're both a family office leader and an impact investor, as well as an entrepreneur who has dedicated nearly the last 2 decades to solving a specific piece of the puzzle of global challenges. But I'd love if you wouldn't mind, can you build off the conversation that was had during the Family Offices for Sustainable Development? I'm curious, from the perspective of a family office leader, what are your thoughts on the role of capital in this space we find ourselves in?
First of all, Matt, thank you for your friendship and all you've done to support me as an entrepreneur and CORE. I'm deeply honored and humbled to be here. What an incredible room of distinguished leaders. And of course, I'm honored to be here with Lord Fakafanua, a friend and an incredible leader. As I think about my role, on my best days, I am a common sense businessman, an entrepreneur focused on building something that can have incredible impact. And I spent the last 17 years creating a solution that can create energy from waste in a non-combustion way. And it's been quite an odyssey. We have funded the business to the tune of $100 million from like-minded family offices, mine being the largest. And to commit to something for that amount of time, to continue to write checks year after year, I think is what it takes. It's a certain amount of courage. I heard Oswald say, you have to be patient and you have to be there for the long term. And that's really what it takes. And I think it's the balance, this room of distinguished government leaders in island nations, that it takes this mindset of collaboration, but it takes the ability to embrace risk. If we could transport ourselves to Silicon Valley, where they chase risk because they see opportunity. That's rare. You don't hear that very often. And I think the ability to blend profit and planet, particularly in today's world, is what's essential. We are now raising a large round of capital. Investors want to hear my story around why I want to make an impact, but they really want to hear how they can get a return on their investment. They want to understand the techno-economics of a technology. They want to understand the profit. So as an innovator, as a leader, as a founder, I have to be able to explain both of those. What my mission is, what my why is, why I'm doing this, why I've attracted an incredible group of fellow missionaries to make this dream a reality. But I think really that commitment to creating an economic solution as well as one, and I believe the true sustainability in so many ways is economic sustainability. If you figure out that piece of the puzzle, environmental sustainability will come. And I think, there's been too much focus on government subsidies. There's been too much focus on, things that will require, again, grants and other, but Band-Aids. I think that's right, Matt. And you really have to show, even though it might take some time, that whatever innovation that you're developing can create real economic profits. And I think that's that blend between profit and planet is, I think, what will drive the future of sustainability in today's world. So.
Yeah, no, thank you, Cornelius. I've been hearing a lot from island leaders, who are coming to EarthX and they're saying, we're not looking for a handout. We're looking for partners. We're looking for investment. We're looking for scalable impact. And actually, when at the very beginning of this morning, when Trammell came in, he saw you, and I'm going to tee this up for you, Lord Fakafanua. Trammell came up to me and said, "Oh, you got Cornelius Shields here. That's amazing. But what does Cornelius have to do with the islands?" So, Lord Fakafanua, will you please tell us about the state of the waste crisis in small island developing states. Where are things now? What's the trajectory of this crisis?
Well, thank you, Matthew, and I'd like to acknowledge my co-panelist here, Cornelius Shields. The islands are sort of a microcosm. So to put things into perspective, islands are a closed-loop system. We are isolated. Key feature, economic feature, is that we are distant from markets, and we have narrow economic bases. And so, especially for Tonga, we have a massive trade deficit, and that is we import far more than we export. And a lot of that importation consists of packaging, plastics, everything from diesel for our fuel, right through to nappies. And all of this needs to go somewhere. And if it doesn't go in the ocean, it goes into a land dump. And that has environmental impacts, it has health impacts, it has implications on the ecosystem. And for far too long, this has been very unsustainable. And we're looking towards innovative technologies for us to manage our environment and our waste. And our King, His Majesty Tupoa VI, has called Parliament to look at import substitution. And it's not because we're looking inwardly and being more protective. It's because we're trying to protect our environment from all this waste that we're importing.
You know, you talk about the state of the crisis. I'm also curious, Lord Fakafanua, as we try and solve one crisis, it's critical that we don't exacerbate others. For years, island nations, as well as the rest of the world, has tried to solve the waste crisis by simply burning it. Can you talk about the state of burning waste in both Tonga and the Pacific? Where is that conversation now? Are there policies in place now that we know of the environmental and health implications of that approach?
Well, Tonga used to burn waste all the time. In fact, in preparation for Sunday, where everyone dresses up their best and goes to church, every Saturday evening, you would see a small pile of waste being burned on the front of every house. And up until we realized the negative impact that has on the environment and on our islands, it's actually being banned now. So there's a greater reliance on our waste management authority collecting all of this organic and waste in all sorts of mixtures and filling it in our dump site. But the thing is that our management of the waste has gone out of whack. We've accelerated the use of the dump, and in fact, it's got to the point where the tenements were meant to last something like 40 years. Now it's projected to be less than 10. And so, given the acceleration of importation and no more burning, we're now relying heavily on the dump site. But we have broken facilities, we don't have proper management of the dump site. And so we're looking at the potential that waste to energy solutions might have, and also some of the offshoots for other positive outcomes like recycling and all of that. So we've created the policies, and they're currently updating the field manual for the dump site. But the crux of the issue remains, and that is we don't have a good enough grasp on managing our waste on the islands. And I imagine that will be very similar to other islands in the Pacific as well.
Yeah, please, Cor.
We just were approached by the leadership in New Zealand that also has banned incineration. And so I think this is a trend. And you know, I'm looking here, the Island Resilience Summit. There's nothing more resilient about being self-sufficient and producing energy from what is thrown out. And you know, I said recently to a group, I think about Cor's technology as an above ground mining carbon, unlocking the energy value in the carbon that's above ground in these landfills. And that really kind of resonates with folk. But if you really think about that waste, as I do for the last 17 years, as an energy resource, I think it just changes the conversation. And what it also does to the culture is that people are motivated to think about those streams as resources, and they change their behaviors around how those resources are managed. And I think that's, one of the things I'm most proud where, kind of small communities and big companies like Waste Management and Republic are starting to shift how they think about waste as an energy resource.
Well, yeah, and this goes to, answering Trammell's question of why is Cornelius here? And I'd love for you to really speak on, what is it about Core's technology that helps solve both the waste issue that islands like Tonga and New Zealand are facing, but also provide a solution. The government of India came out, also banned the incineration and burning of waste. Can you talk about your journey at Core and how you came to approach this issue of trying to solve the waste crisis, but also understanding the critical need of doing it right? What is it about Core that distinguishes you all from other waste to energy companies around the world?
It's a commitment to the technology working, not just talking about it.
Yeah.
And as we see with entrepreneurs today that take incredible risk, but it doesn't always happen quickly. That notion of patience, you have to do trial and error. In the physical economy, you have to allocate enormous amounts of capital to R&D and actually doing it. So I think the short answer simply is that it must work. And that because my reputation and my family's reputation and others other families that I brought to be part of this odyssey and journey, I really was very quiet about our technology for most of our journey. And only in the last couple of years was I really ready to kind of start to commercialize it aggressively. But we did enormous amounts of R&D and made every possible mistake possible, from material handling to every aspect of the pyrolysis to cleaning the gas. So I think it's really, a commitment to not talking about it and creating PowerPoint presentations, but to actually putting steel on the ground and doing it and learning.
Yeah.
I think that's the big differentiator, and the commitment and the cost associated with that. And what I would say to the island nation leaders here is our business model is in many ways to help you manage the risk of thinking about this solution as something as a fit for your nation. And we build, own, and operate. Really, all we ask for from our clients is a contract for waste at a fair price. And then we take the risk of implementing the technology, and that we create the energy, and then we'll sell the energy back or work with you to adopt that energy. So I think a practical business model that fits unique situations is also something that really differentiates us.
One of the goals of the Island Resilience Partnership is to take proven solutions in certain parts of the world and replicate and scale them across the planet. And Cornelius, talk about your journey. Now Core Infrastructure has a established partnership and project with WM, the largest waste management company in North America. You've partnered with Cemex, the largest cement maker in the world. Being at EarthX now, being in this room, of course we have island government representatives, leaders from Panama, Denmark, but also family offices in the room. As you look at replicating and scaling Core's technology around the world, what are the kinds of partners that you're looking for? You have I think most entrepreneurs are, in this tough bind of, sometimes they're, back against the wall. They have to take capital in order just to take that next step. And you've been in the fortunate position of not needing to just take capital, but looking for the right partners. What does the right partner look like to you?
I think boils down to mission, vision, values. That I think I always look to partners that have aligned vision and have the values that we hold ourselves accountable to. So that's where I start. And then complementary capabilities. I think the notion that each partner will bring something unique to the table. Core could bring the technology. Another partner could bring relationships to all of the waste streams in, for example, island nations. So I think there's not a one size fits all, but that first, the alignment on on vision and values is really essential. And I think, we're all earthlings here, Trammell has brought us all together, and I hear over and over again the oneness. This is why I love coming to EarthX. I've been coming for 8 years, and and particularly in this room, some of the comments that I've heard from leadership here is that I get this sense of a oneness, that we're all in this together, that I very rarely hear in other parts, of the country and world that I travel to. So it really feels like home here. And all the people that come year after year to EarthX, we're all aligned, that we're doing the work that we're doing, all the sacrifices and challenge that we're making, we're doing it for a greater good. We're doing it in service of our home, the planet. We're doing it in service of our fellow man. So I think, that alignment is essential, and I feel that alignment in this room and always at EarthX. So.
Yeah, thanks, Cornelius. Yeah, sure. Well, Lord Fakafanua, take us home. And what I'd like to ask you, you recently turned 40. Congratulations. What people here might not know is that nearly 15 years ago, you were first elected Speaker of the Legislative Assembly for the Kingdom of Tonga, making you the youngest speaker in the world at that time. Last decade and a half, you've been traveling around the world, meeting partners, governments, impact investors. Where do you think we are right now in the state of resilience and prosperity for small island developing states, in the context of the partners who are actually working with governments to move the needle? Are we moving in the right direction? Do you see hope? And what are the barriers?
Oh, what a loaded question. From my birthday to what are we doing? Okay, I think we're moving in the right direction. We're heavily relying on the Paris Agreement. We're heavily relying on stakeholders on a multilateral level. The multilateral financial institutions are coming around, and certain institutions like the Resiliency Fund are being set up. There's a lot of hope for the future. I'm witnessing a lot of technology that can actually move things in the right direction. Mobilization isn't as fast as we want it to be. There's still a lot of talk of ambition, but we haven't seen many of the commitments fulfilled, just like the pledges that have been made at previous COPs. And so from our perspective, we want to see accelerated action, greater ambition, and a lot of commitments for us to deliver and have concrete action. I've been to a lot of these conferences, and to be honest, I'm starting to feel a bit jaded.
Yeah.
But we're not going to lose hope because we have no choice. And sadly, two of our Pacific Island neighbors will not exist in about 70 years. And so we don't want that for more of our Pacific Islands. We're looking at an existential crisis, and I think the world is only slowly awakening to the realization, and we want things to happen. We want to accelerate decarbonizing. We want to accelerate technologies to sequester carbon. The root cause is we need to go away from burning.
Yeah.
And we're still burning, and we're burning at an accelerated rate. And I don't know why, but I believe the crux of the issue is there's not enough empathy for those at the front line of climate change. And the reason why we don't have enough empathy is because a lot of people are insulated from this. We have the capacity in first world nations to change our climate within our bubble. We live in air condition if it's too hot. We live in central heating if it's too cold. But all of that needs to be fueled. And so we don't want to perpetuate that self-fulfilling prophecy of burning, and we end up being the frog that's in the pot that's, by the time we realize we're cooked, it's too late.
Yeah.
And so I think the clear message that needs to be heard is the message from the front lines, and that is from the floods in Pakistan, from the sinking islands in the Pacific and in the Caribbean. Don't act too late.
Yeah.
And I think the technology is there, the capital is there, and places like EarthX help connect the solutions. And so that gives me hope.
Beautiful. Well, Lord Fakafanua, Cornelius, thank you both for joining us.
Thanks, Matt.